Egypt, once believed to be the cradle of civilization, is now revealing quite a different story. According to the sacred texts, many advanced beings left Atlantis after its destruction and traveled about the world to spread the benefits of civilization to mankind. The first pharaohs, Ptah, Osiris, and Thoth, built the pyramids in Egypt and handed down the secret teachings to pyramid guardians they called DJEDI. These DJEDI were part of a very ancient path and guardians of sacred knowledge. They were specifically chosen to safeguard humanity during the coming Dark Age. According to the sacred texts, before man arrived on the scene, there existed a beautiful civilization of gods. These higher beings reigned in Egypt thousands of years before man. They were the primordials, said to have originated on Earth and actually dwelled in Heliopolis for a total of 13,870 years until the time that the human pharaohs took over the rule of the earthly kingdoms. Their knowledge was hidden in secret books, intending that they should be sought by future generations, but found only by the worthy who were to use these discoveries for the benefit of mankind. The Kahun Papyrus reveals that these high initiates earned the title of Jedi. These sacred texts reveal that Thoth was the master teacher of a group of magi identified as the Jedi. Thoth handed down the teachings of an ancient order of warrior magicians. These Jedi were an elite esoteric order in ancient Egypt with a lineage that descends down throughout Europe and the world. The way of the Jedi is the way of the Force, which pre-existed George Lucas and the epic Star Wars saga. Ancient Egyptians, Sufis, and Knights Templar mastered the way of the Djed, Kundalini, or life force. The Jedi mastered advanced healing arts, martial arts, and they could manipulate matter with their own mind. They have reached a sublime state. In Buddhism, it is described as the highest state of awareness and concentration. This was the path of the Jedi Masters. They chose to carry the torch that Thoth handed down and help the human race to evolve into a higher consciousness so that one day we will be able to crack the secrets of the pyramids and decipher all the clues about ourselves that the ancients left behind. Thoth and many other Jedis are depicted in the many frescoes around Egypt, holding magical tools, scepters, ankhs, and Djed pillars. Like in Star Wars, these Jedi of ancient Egypt wielded tools of immense power. They were the gods of legend who had supernatural powers and were able to float massive stones through the air. The appeal of Star Wars and the similarities of Jedi and Jedi is no coincidence. George Lucas was inspired by Joseph Campbell, who brought us the hero's journey, the path that all initiates take on their way to a higher state of being. This is synonymous with all the ancient stories of legend. In the Hindu philosophy, love is the divine power of attraction and creation that harmonizes, unites, and binds us together, analogous to the Force in Star Wars, which has both a light side and a dark side. It is taught that those who live in tune with this force of love achieve harmony with nature, their fellow beings, and the universe. In Star Wars, those who achieve this higher level of consciousness become the masters of the Force. The ancient Egyptians practiced an identical path to higher consciousness. They taught about the energy centers within the body. The energy centers, or chakras, represent the map of our spiritual development and contain great power, which we can unleash and harness as we evolve spiritually. This is the awakening of the Jedi Masters, raising their Kundalini from the root chakra and all the way up to the crown, representing the full awakening of self to achieve mastery of the rainbow body. The teachings of Thoth describe that the pyramids were used as initiation temples for the high Jedi initiates of the secret order. Initiation in the Great Pyramid was actually performed in the sarcophagus of the king's chamber after entering through an underground chamber at the Sphinx. Candidates would undertake rigorous challenges as they traveled through a subterranean shaft that leads into the Great Pyramid. Once in the king's chamber, the adept would lie inside the sarcophagus for 3 days. The Ba and Ka merge. This was the final awakening of the Jedi Master. The ancient Egyptians believed that the pharaohs were one day destined to ascend to the rank of the gods and be like the gods and goddesses, a belief that stemmed from the old high priest initiations in the Great Pyramid long ago. Over time, the later Egyptians misinterpreted the ancient hieroglyphics written on the temple walls and took a more literal translation. The first pharaohs, Atlantean high priests, underwent initiations in the Great Pyramid to merge their souls with divine intelligence to become ascended beings. Later, less enlightened natives took this to mean that all pharaohs following in the footsteps of Horus, son of Osiris, were destined for divine achievement. The Force is the light. The Force is the dark. The Jedi chose the light for all it reveals. The Jedi are the guardians of civilization, yet do not allow civilization to destroy needlessly. If your feelings propel you forward to follow the path of the Jedi, then you are being called. Clear your mind. The whole universe is contained within you, and you can tap into this power. Fear nothing. Hate no one. Give love to all. See this love in everyone. The Jedi mission is to revive the dormant living force inside every living being.
Hello, my name is Tyler Tolman, and you probably know about me through a process of talking about detoxification and healing and nutrition. Recently, we've been talking about detox from the VTOX and all the kind of things that are going on in the world. And this is a subject that I probably have not really gotten into. It's something I've been super passionate for over a decade about, but I don't talk about much. Because I don't want to go too far over the edge with what I say and what I do, because it's pretty out there. And I'll tell you that, you know, my training with who I would call a true Egyptian sage, who's had some pretty profound information passed down for thousands and thousands of years, one of very few individuals on planet Earth. In fact, he said he was only one of two who had permission to share things publicly. Two people on planet Earth that were initiated into this experience from childhood. I had the opportunity to train with. And a lot of the things that he said were just so fantastic and out of this world that it's just like, oh, okay, that's cool, but you know, that's fantasy. And so I just kind of listen and tune in, but he had so much really amazing information, especially around the healing arts and the true ancient Egyptian physicians, and about fasting and regeneration and herbs and acupressure and acupuncture and chiropractic, and just vast volumes of knowledge and wisdom that I just allowed myself to ignore the fantasticoriums of things that he talked about as being just maybe, you know, mythology that he was sharing. And over the years, new information that came out with quantum physics and Then, like, especially when it comes to cuneiform tablets and talking about the original creation story from the Mesopotamian perspective, and these individuals talked about Enki and Enlil and how we were potentially a seeded race from another planet and things like this, started to be like, whoa, there's a lot of similar information that's being shared by, we got like Graham Hancock and Robert Bouval and all these scientists that are going to Egypt and opening up the records and looking at geology and testing things, and like, hey, we're not being told the right story. What if there's a lot more going on in the cosmos than what we're aware of? And what if there's a lot more to our history than we're aware of? And what if truth is actually stranger than fiction? And there is a level of me that believes that that is exactly the truth. That our truth of our history is much stranger than what we've ever been told. And if we actually knew the truth of our history, we'd be so inspired about who we are and who our ancestors are and our capabilities as humans. It might just spark us into a direction of doing so much more. So, what I'm going to be presenting is something coming up called the Jedi Training.
This is also my life's work. This brings together everything that I care about.
Yeah, he saved my life with his teachings, and you've continued that, and I've just healed and healed and healed. That this is the way. I found the answer, so thank you.
I've also been kind of asking, what am I supposed to be doing? You know, like I've got this space. What can I do with myself and anchor myself into? So the Jedi has brought all of these elements that I've had.
There are not enough words to share about what this has done for me. Like, thank you, and thank you to everyone as well. It's just been more than I ever could have imagined.
The Jedi Training sounds very much like Jedi from Star Wars for a reason, but the original name of these advanced individuals that were tapped into something more were called the Jedi. And this is very clear in the ancient Egyptian writings and wisdom. There are papyrus that talk about these individuals, and I just want to get into it. So my teacher taught me a process, and it's a basic process of human evolution as it was taught by the ancient Jedi masters. And it's a process you'd have to go through if you chose to be an initiate. An initiate was somebody who decided to go on to a different path, not just the regular path of, having a family and growing some food and just kind of being a part of society and doing whatever you want. The initiatory path was somebody who was committed to soul evolution within this lifetime. And it was taught that you could use this lifetime to potentially perform the work of many lifetimes and go through this process essentially that was called ascension. But the Egyptians knew that once you have the awakening, it's important to step into the process of purification. Okay. And they had a very specific process of purification that would take you to a level of what they called activation. And activation was a level of your own genes, your 12-strand DNA starting to become more active and vibrating in a unified way to fulfill more of the blueprint of who you are actually, and what you're meant to be doing. And so typically through these major purification processes, people are guided to a space of doing what they're really meant to be doing and becoming fulfilled and fulfilling their purpose within it. And that's the activation process. Then we need to understand that there's a whole new level of awakening that takes place, and then a new level of purification and another level of activation. Probably at least of which there are 7 major activations that need to take place on this plane. of existence. And we'll get into this, and we'll get into the connection between the ancient Egyptian side of things and this movie called Star Wars, because George Lucas was somebody who was in contact with one of these initiates who shared our true history in depth. And George Lucas was inspired by this and started to do more research, thinking and feeling into it. But then over time, actually started to write the movie and invested 100% of every ounce of his being into getting this information into the consciousness of human beings again, so that we could awaken. So what is a Jedi? They were considered to be the highest order of healers, teachers, warriors, and magicians. Some of them chose the warrior and magician pathway. Some of them chose the healers and teacher pathway. It was almost like there was two separate divisions. Okay, so within the school, you could choose the path of healer and teacher and go out and just teach the healing arts and how to regenerate and heal. This has been my pathway. There are a few surviving writings about these, about them. The Westcar Papyrus is one of them. So you can actually go into and read the traditional Egyptological definitions of the translations, and it talks about the Jedi being very powerful warrior and magician class and the things that they did. So these are the original Jedi on Earth. Okay, these were actual beings on Earth. This is not mythology. These were actual beings living on Earth and ruling, but at a much higher capacity. So the creator of Star Wars, George Lucas, has often expressed how he turned to ancient mythology and religion for inspiration, basically taking ancient concepts and redefining them for the purpose of creating the themes, storylines, and characters in the Star Wars movie. So what is the Force? Obi-Wan Kenobi in the 4th episode, A New Hope, the first movie that came out, explains the Force to Luke as an energy field created by all living things. You have an energy field that surrounds you. That's a fact. It's referred to as your aura, okay? And it's like a toroidal field that exists around us. And there are processes by which you can expand and amplify your toroid field through exercise, through quality nutrition, through sun gazing, through grounding, through many different means. The Force and the philosophies of its followers has a resemblance to a number of real-world religions, including Hinduism, which includes a belief of unifying Brahman energy like the Force, and Zoroastrianism. Now, I believe that all of us have light and dark. And I believe that we should love the dark sides of ourselves, but also have it under control. And what that means is sometimes we think bad thoughts, sometimes we do bad things, but essentially to grow through our experience and learn how to control my own thoughts and control my own life and end up being of service to humanity and do good things to people. And yes, sometimes I make mistakes, but reviewing those mistakes and doing my best to constantly evolve. And most of that starts with yourself, loving yourself, nurturing yourself, building yourself up. So that's what essentially this training is about. This training is a 7-day program. It's a 7-day process we're going to go through. Now, I want everybody to join us as soon as possible and start the process, but then there's going to be 7 solid days where we actually go through the ancient Egyptian physical culture in the mornings. And it will be about 3 to 4 hours of physical training. But it's going to be stretching, it's going to be breathing, it's going to be movement, it's going to be connection, it's going to be a little bit of strength training, it's going to be dancing and moving and jumping up and down. It's also be incorporating some martial arts and kicks and punches, and then some martial arts tools, a bow staff, a lightsaber, some other pieces. And every morning we're going to spend about 3 or 4 hours just going through and practicing and learning, so that after the program, you can continue to come back for months and years and have this area of development of the ancient Egyptian physical culture to open up your cardiovascular, lymphatic, nervous system, your endocrine system and improve everything.
I've had an epic time. And I think, like Michelle said, you have this beautiful way of teaching. Like, you have this, like, it's one thing to teach, but to be able to do it the way you do and convey it and really like hit people. And yeah, it's just exquisite.
I've loved every day, every minute, every second of this whole program.
But I think I've been waiting for this all my life. So, but because you've put all the context down over the last 7 days, it's all made perfect sense. You know, it's like, of course it is. Of course it is. Man, there's, you know, I was just blown away by how many masters have come on this course, you know, how many people with just little bits of divinity, you know, already coming through. It's just amazing. And then just to hold space while Tyler goes on his rants and does his thing, you know, it all came together. It was just amazing.
What you're going to learn: ancient Egyptian physical culture and the 5 aspects. Grade 1. Remember, this is a program to find out who actually wants to do it. That's what it's really about. If you get through the 7 days, which you will, it'll be easy enough. But if you get through the 7 days and you realize this is your path, then it's going to be a 7-year process. We're going to take it slow, and we're going to learn a little by little by little by little, and practice little by little by little by little. And little by little, I'm going to add 1, and then 2, and then 3, and then 4, and then 5, up until you learn the entire 12 ritual processes to open up the 12 cranial nerves, which enhance the 12 senses. Grade 1, martial arts and weapon use. Grade 1, Egyptian alphabet and language. So learning the language of nature, the information behind it. So there's an educational side of this. There's a physical side of this. Basic symbols of ancient Egypt and their meaning, the true history and origin of humans and where we come from. So much more. The basic 7 principles of health that we need to follow. So any individual that wants to be on this path needs to embrace the laws of nature. And for some, it'll be easy, and for others, it might be very challenging to change your habits. But to be a Jedi is not like anything you will ever come into contact with. If you were to be on another planet and walk into a bar and grab a drink and see a Jedi walk in, you're going to know who's a Jedi because of their energy and their space. And the Jedi aren't just partying and having a good time and eating hamburgers and having barbecues and smoking weed and doing stupid shit. They're committed to a process of being of service and committed to a process of life and health and regeneration and immortality. Or at least on this path of ascension as much as possible within this lifetime. So you'll learn the 7 principles of health and commit to whatever degree that you can, little by little by little. And you'll also learn the 7 hermetic principles, which are the higher laws, how to regenerate and activate yourself. Very specific, how to cross the rainbow bridge, because it's a very specific process over 7 years. Didn't even get into that. Totally skipped that part. How to open the 12 senses. Grade 1 will probably be the first ritual only. If I feel like people are ready for it, we'll do 2. Number 1 and number 2, which is all about the heart and sight, and then also opening up sound. So it's the process of becoming a Jedi. Essentially, you get through the 7 days and want to continue, then you'll be starting out as a Padawan. And you might be physically already a master. You might be, tapped into other things and already a master, but there's a lot to learn with details of language and history and specific processes that still makes you a Padawan. And within this tradition, we still need to learn aspects of all of it to be able to progress forward. First degree test. So you'll be tested at the beginning of the program or just prior on your physical ability, your flexibility, your insights. And yes, I'm talking about ability to do push-ups, and ability to do the splits, and ability to do a front bend, and ability to kick and punch. But it doesn't matter where you're at. What matters is that you progress. And so at the end of 7 days, we'll test it again. And if you actually show up, you'll be much better in all of these areas, most likely, or at least in certain areas. But then it's about continuing the process. And then in another year, we'll get together and go through a whole nother process of initiation, and we'll test where you're at. And the idea is to consistently improve. And if you are old, you will become young. And if you are feeble, you will become strong. That's what this process is about. But it's not easy. If you are committed, you will regenerate your body. You will reactivate hormones. Your cells will become younger. You will thrive. You will regenerate. You will literally get younger. 7 years from now, you could potentially be 20, 30, 40 years younger than you are now. Every cell in your body recognized as a 30, 40 year younger human being. Human, if you understand what Hugh is. So you'll be tested on the 7 principles. You'll be tested on the original 5 principles and the stories of Isis and Set and Nephthys and Horus, understanding the teachings, basic alphabet, physical culture. If you pass through this and you decide to do it and pass the test, then I will give you a gi and a belt. The gi will be branded in the ancient tradition, which is very specific logos. And the first belt is red. And then a year later, orange, or however long it takes. Some people might take 2 or 3 or 4 years just to pass the red. And then orange, and then yellow, and then green, and then blue, and then purple, and indigo, Mace Windu. Basic training prior and after. So you sign up for the course, you come along starting tomorrow. It'll be a great time. And I'll show up tomorrow, give you a definition of how things work. We'll go through the process, and then we'll continue to add a little bit, and stay consistent. After the program is finished, we're going to continue that training. Whether you show up 1 day a week, 3 days a week, or 5 days a week is completely up to you. But the more you show up and be consistent with it, or learn the practices and incorporate it into the practice you currently have, there will be aspects that will improve every aspect of what you're already doing. Okay, the 7 days together is more advanced training. And it will most likely be 3 to 4 hours in the morning and probably 3 to 4 hours in the afternoon. The morning will be more so based around the physical training, and the afternoon will be the intellectual, the language, the history, the mystery, the symbolism, and everything that I want to teach you about ancient Egyptian stuff. You'll have 30 days access to the recording afterwards to watch as many times as you like, which I'd recommend. If you have, sons and daughters and other things of this nature, you can always bring them along and have access. Level of education and training and support that you will have, this is nothing. So the truth is, if you want it, you'll find out a way. All the little things come up, money, this, that. If it's not for you, it's not for you. If money scares you, it's not for you. If you're meant to find a way, commit. Once one is committed, then providence moves too. All manner of unforeseen incidents and material assistance will come your way to manifest your dreams. All you have to do is commit and say, yes, I'm doing this. No matter what it looks like, I'm doing this. Commit. And then things will move in your favor to make it happen.
I never knew what it was that I needed to do until now. And now I know. and we have a shared vision. And I now know my purpose.
I've never watched Star Wars, believe it or not, but was drawn to this because from my heart. So looking forward to plenty more experiences, and I can never get enough of you, Tyler. I just can sit here and listen, and my adult children walk past and just go, "Are you listening to Tyler again?" I go, "Yeah," and they're getting snippets, which I just am so grateful to you for.
And tune in to the Jedi, tune into their presence and every word that's being said. That movie was brought into a time planting seeds so many years ago. Keep inspired. Keep inspired. There's a reason. There's a whole movement that's coming. Okay, it's time. It is the return of the Jedi.